Seth Meyers. This is Late Night. We hope you're doing well. And now, if you don't mind, we're going to get to the news. President Trump told reporters today aboard Air Force One that he'd love to run for president again in 2028, but added, quote, "I haven't really thought about it." You haven't thought about it? You have merch. That's like James Cameron saying he hasn't thought about Avatar 4. President Trump announced over the weekend that he will impose an additional 10% tariff on imports from Canada after the province of Ontario released an ad that showed former President Ronald Reagan criticizing tariffs, which is bad news for this lady who just imported something from Canada. President Trump announced last week that a friend sent a check to cover military paychecks during the government shutdown. Now they just need to convert it from Marlboro miles. President Trump attended a dinner hosted by the Association of Southeast Asian Nations yesterday in Malaysia. You know, whenever I get bummed out about what a bad president he is and how he's destroying the country, I remember that at least he still has to do stuff he hates. Because, you know, he didn't know who anybody was, he hated the food, he doesn't know these countries. He was like a kid in church for a 2-hour mass on a perfect summer Sunday. And sometimes that's all we have. When asked last week if President Trump enjoys gambling, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that she was not sure. He literally owned casinos. That's like asking this guy if he likes tricks. Clearly he does. After Robert De Niro called him a Nazi, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller said in a recent interview that De Niro is a, quote, sad, broken old man. I don't know. I think they both look pretty good for De Niro's age. During a tele-rally last night for New Jersey Republican gubernatorial candidate Jack Ciattarelli, President Trump promoted Ciattarelli's ability to lower energy costs. I mean, it's Jersey. They could just turn down the setting. A deli in Queens is offering a so-called Curtis Sliwa Hero, which features grilled chicken, roasted red peppers, arugula, and fresh mozzarella. They also have a Cuomo Hoagie, which is a sandwich nobody wants, but they give it to you anyway. A middle school in Oregon recently served students soft pretzels that had been mistakenly sprinkled with oven cleaner. Yes, said the lunch lady, mistakenly. A pig named Norbert recently set a Guinness World Record by skateboarding 33 feet in under 12 seconds, while the previous record holder was delicious. And finally, today was the 121st anniversary of the opening of the New York subway. To get an idea of what the subway was like back then, ride it today. And that was a monologue, everybody. Got a great show for you tonight. He's an Oscar and Tony-nominated actor, writer, and director, you know, from Training Day, A First Reform, Boyhood, and Dead Poets Society. He stars in Blue Moon, which is in theaters now. Our friend Ethan Hawke is back on the show, everybody. She's an award-winning, best-selling author of White Teeth, On Beauty, The Fraud, and Grand Union. Her latest, Dead and Alive, is an essay collection, which is out tomorrow. Zadie Smith is on the show, everybody. Truly one of my favorites. I'm so happy she's here. Before we get to all that, Donald Trump yet again trolled the media by refusing to rule out running for an illegal third term, which he can't do because it's against the Constitution. And if there's one thing we know about the man, it's that he respects the sanctity of documents. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Trump loves trolling everyone with talk of a third term. When he met with Democratic leaders in the Oval Office before the shutdown a few weeks ago, he made sure to bring some of his dumb hats.
President Donald Trump posted pictures on his Truth Social on Tuesday. In the photos, take a look. A Trump 2028 hat can be seen sitting on his desk, teasing a third term.
He also posted these photos of their Oval Office meeting on Monday with Trump 2028 hats prominently displayed on his desk. A nod, Tony, to a potential third term that the law does not allow.
It's so weird to make a hat for a thing that can't happen. Wearing a Trump 2028 hat is like wearing a hat that says Super Bowl champion, New York Jets. And by the way, I just want to congratulate my crew on the Jets winning their first game of the season on Sunday. I have never seen a fan base so happy to be 1-7. When I came in this morning. They were sobbing, hugging each other, screaming, "We did it." My security guards, John and Jim, even had their faces painted green and white. At least I think it was paint. I always forget that Jim is half Hulk on his father's side. So Trump put some hats on the desk during a meeting with Democrats, and the Democrats in attendance definitely thought it was weird.
President Trump just moments ago posted pictures from your meeting in the Oval Office where he, I guess, apparently tried to hand you Trump 2028 hats.
They just randomly appeared in the middle of the meeting on the desk. It was the strangest thing ever.
Come on, the strangest thing ever? Don't you live in Brooklyn? If someone rollerbladed into a Brooklyn deli wearing a full mermaid costume, the only thing anyone would say is, "The usual, Jeff?" It's not even the strangest thing Trump has done. Not long before that meeting, he wandered onto the roof of the White House. I mean, just be thankful the meeting was indoors. Also, what do you mean they just randomly appeared? Did someone bring them in mid-meeting, or did Trump just, like, conjure them out of thin air? Because even I would be a little impressed by that. I mean, did he do anything else cool? At one point, we said we needed to make sure the healthcare subsidies were funded, and then he said, "Would this cover it?" And he pulled a quarter from behind my ear. I mean, obviously that doesn't cover it, but it was a pretty neat trick. Think about how insane this is. This was supposed to be a meeting about keeping the government open, making sure troops get paid and families get nutrition assistance and air traffic controllers can do their jobs. And instead, the president's main interest was trolling. This is like if you went in for an x-ray and the doctor said, as you can see here, you have a minor contusion on your rib cage and your vertebrae are slightly misaligned. But what really concerns me is something I spotted here in the intercostal space between the ribs. If you look closely, you'll see here that it says, "Ha ha, made you look." J.D. Vance, who would like to run for president in 2028, was also in the meeting, and Jeffries asked him if he was cool with the dumb hat.
And I just looked at the hat, looked at J.D. Vance, who was seated to my left, and said, "Don't you got a problem with this?" And he said no comment. And that was the end of it.
Of course, J.D. Vance doesn't have a problem with it. He gave himself a full personality transplant to suck up to Trump. He's willing to endure any humiliation to keep his job. Trump could replace the presidential seal with that meme of Vance as a bald baby. And Vance would say, "Ah, yes, sir, I love it, sir, and I would be honored if you would kick me in the nuts, sir." Trump can't help himself. The MAGA movement cares more about trolling libs than making the government function, which is why he keeps going on about this unconstitutional third term.
President Trump is not ruling out running for a third term. Here's what he had to say on board Air Force One as he headed to Japan.
I would love to do it. I have my best numbers ever. It's very terrible. I have my best numbers. If you read it, am I not ruling it out? You'll have to tell me.
Why do we have to tell you what you're thinking? None of us want to be contestants on America's least favorite game show, What's in My Head? Again, the Constitution says you're limited to 2 terms, and this is your second term. So running in 2028 is not an option. When this term is over, you can go back to sitting on your golf course like a recently divorced gargoyle. But Trump keeps saying he's got the best numbers he's ever had, which, and I hope you're sitting down for this, is not even remotely true.
Donald Trump's doing absolutely awful in the minds of the American people. What are we talking about? We're talking about new lows for Donald Trump. He's hit new lows for himself. The bottom line is Donald Trump is at the lowest point ever in either of his terms. He's the worst for any presidency at this point. How about the second term? Come to this side of the screen. Of course, Trump's in his second term. He's the worst for any president at their second term at this point. So Donald Trump isn't just beating himself with record lows. This is the lowest for any president ever at this point in either a presidency or for a second term. Donald Trump setting the types of records you simply put do not want to set. Right now, the grade for Donald Trump among the American people is really an F, at least compared to other presidents. And if the shutdown causes any more pain, that F could somehow become even worse.
You know what? Trump is so unpopular, they might have to invent a new grade that's worse than F. And that happened to me in PE my senior year. My gym teacher, Coach Harris, said, "Myers, I have to give you a D." And I responded, "That's what I told your wife last night." And then all my friends high-fived me, right? And then he said, "Now you're getting an F." And I said, "I gave your mom an F last night." And then it just got really quiet. And he said, "Jesus, Myers." And like none of my friends would high-five me because they all agreed that crossed the line. And then I was basically a pariah for the rest of my senior year. I would like walk down the hallway alone, and when people passed, I could hear them whispering, "Did you hear what he said about Coach Harris's mom?" "Yeah, his mom who just died." Anyway, that was way worse than an F. The point is, Trump is the most unpopular president in history again, but he insists he's not only popular enough, but also healthy enough to stay in office.
Walter Reed mentioned advanced medical imaging. Did you get an MRI? Can you tell us what
I did. I got an MRI. It was perfect. Yeah. I mean, I gave you the full results. We had an MRI in the machine, you know, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it was perfect. Yeah.
Did you say what in particular they were?
You would ask the doctors. The doctors said some of the best reports for the age, some of the best reports they've ever seen.
I don't think that was a real MRI. I think somebody tricked him into like crawling into a garbage can. What do you mean your MRI was perfect? They're doctors, not floor judges at the Olympics. When you come out of the MRI machine, there aren't 3 nurses holding up signs with numbers on them. There's no such thing as a perfect MRI. If you've ever been to a doctor, you know, at a certain age, it's like taking your car to the shop. They're gonna find a problem. Like, I'm not close to Trump's age, and still every doctor's visit ends with at least 2 referrals to different doctors. Although I think it's a scam because when I went to one of the referral doctors, they referred me back to my original doctor. And when I went in to see him, I said, "Wait a second, I was just here." And then he yelled, "They're on to us," and jumped out the window. I know it's sometimes hard to fathom, given the last 10 years, but it is worth remembering that Donald Trump is still historically unpopular. All the third-term trolling is designed to distract from that. Trump has something in common with the New York Jets. Despite the occasional win, they're both at
New lows.
This has been a closer look.